Hi. We left our sneak peek on Chapter 2 with lots of questions, so let's answer them. The first one was, what is economics and why should you care? Well, economics is a study of how we use resources to make things and services, and how we distribute those goods and services. Because you will be either making or receiving those goods and services, that's why you would be interested. What is the difference between micro and macroeconomics? Here's my picture. Microeconomics is concerned with individuals and organizations, whereas macroeconomics is concerned with countries. You can see that, oh, there we go. Those are flags for countries. Next question. Why are we interested in resource development rather than simply allocating scarce resources? Well, one example is energy. If you think of energy, if we stick with just fossil fuels up here in the top, which is coal, oil, and gas, we won't have enough, and we will run out eventually, even if we are careful about allocating those resources, which we aren't. However, if we add in wind, nuclear power, and solar power, which is developing resources, then we will be able to meet our needs now and in the future. Question next is, how does my working to make a profit at my company help other people? Here I am at my company, this is Iroquois, and at Iroquois I try very hard to make my business profitable. The more profits we have, the more we can reinvest in the business by hiring people, or by buying computers, which keeps other people employed at Dell and Apple, or by buying more software, which keeps programmers working at Microsoft. And the bigger we are, the better it is for the insurance companies we represent. Making my business successful supports all of these people, including the suppliers, the vendors, my employees, Allegheny, they like me because I pay taxes, and Bona students, they like Iroquois because we hire interns. And by making Iroquois successful, we are also helping all of these other individuals. What's this invisible hand, and who is Adam Smith? Well, here is Adam Smith, and he was a Scott philosopher and economist, and he came up with the book, The Wealth of Nations, and currently there is a first edition for sale. This is today's newspaper, The Scotsman, for £50,000. So if you are looking for an investment and you're feeling very capitalistic, this would be a great addition to your library. Next question. Lots to do here. His theory, anyway, we have to finish up with Adam Smith. His theory was that if every individual worked for their own gain, a natural byproduct of that would be the social and economic benefit of all. Next question, is capitalism good, bad, or maybe a little of both? Capitalism certainly promotes growth and effective use of resources, but it also tends to favor some members of society more than others. That was the whole point behind the Occupy movement, which highlighted the disparity between the very rich, that's the 1%, and the rest of the population, that's the 99%. In this particular picture, apparently the 99% want to eat the rich. So, what are the 4 rights that make free market capitalism work? Here they are, for your viewing pleasure. Douglas North, he's a great economist. He credits the success of free market capitalism to the right to own private property and derive the benefits therefrom. That's rule number 1 and rule number 2. Rule number 3 is the right to competition. What would happen to prices and the amount of choice you had if the ruler of your country declared only one company could make athletic shoes? Kings actually used to do that in the olden days. We can be pretty sure prices would go up and choices would go down. Rule number 4 is the right to choose. In order for a free market to work, people have to be free to purchase what they want when they want it. So what do we care about the intersection of the supply and the demand curves? If prices for Domino's pizzas go down, you might be tempted to buy more. And if there are only 5 tickets left for the Bills-Patriots game, and you're a fan of either team, you might be willing to pay more for them. These are examples of the supply curve and the demand curve. Where they meet is called the equilibrium point, and that gives you the ideal price. What are the different types of competition? And is a monopoly ever a good thing? Well, perfect competition is, just think many sellers and a price set by supply and demand. Maybe t-shirts. Monopolistic competition, think many sellers, similar products, but they've done a great job branding them so people think that they are different. Think high-end jeans like True Religion, Diesel, that sort of thing. Hang on, too much paper. There we go. Oligopoly, few sellers. Think oil companies like ExxonMobil, BP, Chevron. A monopoly, a single seller. Monopolies are often needed to launch fledgling industries that require big investments, like the original Bell Telephone Company. Stringing all that line across the United States would not make sense unless you were sure you could recover your costs. Pharmaceutical companies also have a temporary monopoly when they file for a patent on a new drug, and that allows them to recover the cost of developing the drug. So monopolies can be good at times. Next question, what about socialism and communism as alternative to free market capitalism? Well, socialism says that the government should own the major businesses so the profits can be used to benefit all of the citizens. Communism says that the government should own all the means of production, and the government should decide what to make and what to charge for it. The problem with these systems is that when government makes production and pricing decisions, you sometimes end up with a lot of product that nobody wants or too little of products that people really do want. And that was the situation in Russia when they had lots of people wanting cars and not many cars for them to buy in the 1970s. Should we mix and match economic approaches? Well, Germany does just that. And even the United States is not a purely capitalistic system because we have a social safety net in the form of welfare and Medicaid for the impoverished and Social Security and Medicare for older folks. What are the vital signs of an economy like the United States? This is a doctor. See his stethoscope? Oops, stethoscope. Okay. The main ones outlined by the book were GDP, gross domestic product, unemployment rate, and inflation or price indexes. There are other important indicators, and we will get to those during our class exercise, which I think will be a lot of fun. Next question, is stagflation good or bad or ugly? Well, actually, it's ugly. Thumbs down on that. And that's because prices go up and the economy is slowing, so nobody's a winner in that situation. How does productivity affect an economy, and does it affect a service economy differently? I'm not sure I have a picture for this one. I don't. But I'll just tell you about it. Productivity gains in a manufacturing economy improve your GDP because each worker can produce more. However, sometimes technology improves the quality of the product, but not the amount of production, and that doesn't get reflected in GDP, but it does benefit society. And there are many economists out there who are trying to capture that concept in a new measure of economic health. Who is Joe Schumpeter, and what did he have to say that was so important? Well, he came up with these 4 phases of long-term business cycles: the boom, the recession, the depression, and the recovery. The United States is in the recovery right now. I recommend that you take a look again at the definitions so that you have a feel for what constitutes a boom, a recession, a depression, and a recovery, but I promise not to test you on it. Okay. What is fiscal policy and how does it work? What about the same question for monetary policy? Well, fiscal policy is government's use of taxing and spending to affect the economy, and it's done by the government. Monetary policy is the management of the money supply and interest rates, but it's done by the Federal Reserve Bank, also known as the Fed. And the Fed has been very active since 2008, when we had the housing crisis, which pushed our economy into recession. And many people believe that the Fed is responsible for saving us from a full-fledged depression with their quantitative easing and other actions. That's it for Chapter 2. Thanks for joining.